Shabbat Shalom. It's been a very enlightening trip for me to Israel. As you know, I've been in Israel with a group of 8 rabbis from the DMV and the head of the Federation of Greater Washington. We spent time going to Ashkelon and seeing a house destroyed by a missile, talking to the people who live there. We've gone to Lod and spoken to Rabbi Samet, my teacher, and to the people from the Garin in Lod, but also to one of the local imams and others in the Arab population in Lod. We spent time at the Hartmans, too. We spent time speaking to journalists and political experts. I'd like to share with you an idea that I think touches on something I've always felt very deeply. Ever since I first came to Israel in high school, and I've spent a year on sabbatical here at different times, I've always felt, on the one hand, deeply committed to Israel, deeply committed, obviously, to our many thousands year hope and our prayers every day, and the Jews throughout history that have lived here and walked here from all kinds of places. At the same time, I've always been deeply troubled by the many millions of Arab, Palestinians, Christians, others who live in Israel, and who I've always had a sense when I come here of them being a second-class citizenry. And on a practical level, they don't always get the same things that Jews get. They're not seen in the same way. And there's, for me as a Jew, for us as Jews, there's something deeply troubling about that. There's something about us ruling over others and others suffering that is at our hands, whether it's justified or not. And so there's some language that Daniel Hartman used that I found very instructive, that one has to be fully committed to Israel, and one has to also be troubled. Israel's not necessarily perfect. It is not perfect, but that we have to retain both. To be committed and not be troubled creates a tremendous problem for us morally. And to be troubled and therefore not committed means that we are not part of the Jewish dream, the Jewish hope, the Jewish destiny of what God said to Abraham, of being in the land and being a blessing to all the peoples of the world by living in that land. And both are true. What does it mean to have a national anthem that speaks about the Jewish hope? What if I'm not Jewish and I've lived in this land for many generations? Can I sing that national anthem and actually still feel like a full-fledged Israeli? I'm not sure. Does that mean we have to make some kind of change? What about the law of return? These are the very hard issues. That's partly the purpose of the land of Israel, of the state of Israel, the modern state of Israel, is the law of return, to be a safe haven for Jews. Can one have a country in which others will feel like full-fledged citizens, a real sense of ownership, even if they're not Jews, and still retain the law of return? What would it mean to have some way of others becoming citizens that wasn't too arduous? How to do both. How to both stay fully committed to Israel, which unfortunately many American Jews are less and less so, and at the same time to feel troubled about the dilemmas and to be part of making it a peaceful place, making it a place where all people are in the image of God and are treated that way fully and can feel fully enfranchised. I don't think that we can have a long-term Israel without that. I don't think that we can retain our status as the moral people we are without that. I don't have the answers, certainly not in a 4-minute video, but I think that language of committed and troubled, and we have to be both, to be fully connected to Israel and the land of Israel, and also to be the moral people that we are. I think that's important. This is the Parsha of the spies. This is the Parsha to come to terms with the beauty of the land, but to judge it honestly, favorably, not to be blind to everything in it. Those are not the same. Shabbat Shalom.